Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I'll continue. Yeah. I think I got a good volume, so hopefully y'all can hear me. Okay, so nada muruna na konka fale nyamin drong ning masa kunda mulu mambara. You know, nana bukanda ke political kuto, but until the killing of the cops, we felt that, you know, ni kondada kuminto. You know, the kakistocrats in our country, you know, the people who have no clue, have no idea, are more determined than people who definitely need to be leading our country. Gambia mimbeje wala nyinto ko ni mini fengere domandindo wala ka politiko kaya manjara wala ko yamba nga nyaka si, you know, paraning so be tiol be ko nyaka si politiko la manjara mo enneng nam wolda mabe wakile lingi be sondi moli enneng wala ben dol marala wala dumbe kering, you know, Gambia la mo furim bal wala be Gambia marakan ibe so be tiol marakan ita kuno la je min diate le ko molla, you know. But that is what happens when people think that politics is not necessary, or they inculcate that thing in your mind that, oh no, you got to go to school, focus on your career, do this, do that. Your career is built and it revolves around political decisions. You have this mentality that I got to go to school, you know, get whatever degrees you got to get, focus on your career. But what career are you talking about? If it is a health career, your salaries are dependent on government. If you're an engineer, it depends on the projects that your government or probably what exists in your country. Everything revolves around governance, no matter what you do. It all revolves around politicians. If you're an expert, you're a scientist, science and everything that you do research is funded by what? Government. And government is who? Politicians. So, no, don't talk about politics, don't go to protest, go and focus on your career. What is your career? Think about your career. Okay, let's say my career probably, at one point I'll teach in a university. Who owns the university? The government of the Gambia, because that's a government university. Now, a government university, most of its decisions or some of its decisions are from the government. Right? The government picks the vice chancellor. The government picks the university leadership. So, no, focus on your career. If you're a lawyer, you're either a state lawyer or probably, you know, you are a private practitioner. But at the end of the day, where do you go to practice? Who actually controls the court systems? It's the government. So telling people that no, go and build your career, focus on your career revolves around governance. So if it is bad, that is it for you. If it is good, that is it for you. And if it is bad, the only thing you can do is to relocate. Go to another country where it is good. So why not it be good in your own country? You know, it's someone in Dino world. Simply because we have this mentality that you got to focus on your career. And then you have the weakest people in our society, very determined, 10 times more determined than most of us to actually get into politics. And this is what is happening in our country. So never buy the idea of people telling you, no, you know, bulan duga politik, you know, politik duga na fi gene na fele moro, political ka dunia tamandi. Let me bring you an example of what happened within the climate negotiations at the UN level. 5 years ago, America had a president, Joe Biden, who believes in climate change and all the issues around it. He put American government into it because America puts a lot of money into it. But of course, years later, Donald Trump came back as president. What happened? Prior to that, he was president. He removed America from it. Now, American scientists believe in climate change. Of course, they've done a lot of extensive research in it, and they know this are the realities. But it all revolves around what? Political decision. You go to the climate negotiation, you have the scientists in the rooms doing all the negotiation. After every negotiation, after everything, what do? They depend on the politicians and the ministers and, of course, high-level segment. They call it high-level segment. And that high-level segment is not the scientists, it's not the PhDs, it's not those who are writing 1,000 academic papers. It's the common politicians who will come together at the high level or high-level segment and preside over everything you have negotiated, every research you've done to take decisions. So if people tell you don't get into politics, don't talk about politics, your life revolves around politics. Because decisions about your health are taken in political rooms. Decisions about your salaries are discussed in political rooms. Decisions about your roads are taken in political rooms. Decisions about even food importation, decisions about cement in your country are taken in political rooms. So if people are telling you don't get into politics because, it's, here and there, they don't understand themselves. They don't know themselves. That is just it. Because dunya revolves around politics and politicians. So in Gambia, young people don't need to get into politics, or young people don't need, these are activists and these are politicians. Gambia opposition ol eninyi mansa kunda man fata bakedi. Kadu nim protest ilbe kerin, tilimbali albe kerin na banko kay beke bulu la nyoka ne tarashiri ya funding keleko. Oh, you are the activist, or you should be an activist for the rest of your life. Go to Senegal. It's the opposition and let's say civil society organizations that come out to actually show their dissatisfaction to governments. When government does something that is not right, it's the opposition and of course the civil society organizations that come together. But Gambia, only the civil society actors and young people will come out. Ale keloke ni pareta ni tole mansa kunda so de yela molda malfe nanje yalu tuje. Moro, albe funding ya kono albe kelo la na banko etiling alta ale da dundu politiko kono wala ale ke political entity wala be tilimbali ya bayna na banko ka ale keloke fadan anyanta danna dami. Don't even run away from people telling you, these are politicians. You should be political in everything you do because politicians make decisions about your life every day. Ngole atin na dindin tawara wala fada fenten for politician wala decision or nila corruption or nila tapaleyan. So these are the things that we got to understand, because the way our mentality about politics is in our society is really, really so low that we do not understand that everything we are running away from is what determines your tomorrow and your day after tomorrow and the future of your own children. People got to understand every aspect of human development. Political decisions play a key role. In other countries, you don't even notice that politics exists simply because they have functional systems. But in a country like the Gambia, where a lot of things are centralized, and of course, government becomes the major employer, then people got to pay attention to government. And it cannot be just civil society actors. But a politician, on mean lafta control nyatonkaya. Wolkata asike bulo bela nyokang. Inyabe tilimbali ala na bonko ke kufandinke latole tai balabu na kido lajana. At the end of the day, natoli okelo beke puro tilimbali ya edani tole fana nare tole tilimbali ya tilo continue. Pura tole fana continue kelo ratole kelo janal be fala moro momo yebula wala lonka mari be ni ne kanne momo ka be mari bula wala eke ni le. Because at the end of the day, you get to a point that you run some of these organizations or whatever. Kemo and other people, they have political ambition. Very well we do. Because we have seen all the wrongs that are happening to our environment, because the president deliberately brought his niece as the Minister of Environment, who deliberately is busy destroying every ecosystem in the Gambia. And the only way to stop some of those things is to be part of those political decision making. Because sitting out there to say, I am an activist, what is it? You can still advocate for whatever you're advocating for, but it's important that young people take greater chunk of our political space and make sure that the right things are done. Don't go out there to be fighting for no reason, because at the end of the day, it's about change. And who is going to bring about change? You think the politician sitting at home, you know, is either mbele be fintila na mbenga kelo kenyola ngaje ko tinwa itama na bankoka o itole sila bungo ko na politics watu sile ko monita karte fai ama mol tankala wala. So today I got to talk about the opposition in the Gambia. Nangen fog na ñi dañ dof ken dofu fi de alinya ka dara tilimbali ala alta kuma fola jalka be ke president men ken sen safola adoli amna ko banko be fale na wala nyama alinya be Senegal ni banko ko to ngala min yalon ko opposition ol ning civil society actors la ka finde ka joko tilimbali ay dang. What are the Gambia Mako Gamana opposition? Honey, Kuria from Alnya, or Kuria from Jalbeka, Rashida, Kalbe Kaiti, and Safol, all of the Banco Falling. These are the things that we are seeing in our opposition factions, that they think that they're smart. They just sit at home and do nothing. They just think that, it's young people to go and do whatever. At the end of the day, only political what was Sila doing, and I campaign your later from Kolki. Go, for Ningel, Alal Dadum political. Alal do hadum politiko to purukan na banko falinga tilindi tilongoni tonyaka mkude menyanda kela ngo sanyitani lulite be kafu ko mu activist la You're advocating for a cause which is very necessary, but at some point, if the people you are advocating for change don't care about change, we keep changing them, and then whoever comes is all about themselves. And some of us who probably would have been advocating, or some people who claim to be advocating, and they now join the regime, simply because their breads have been buttered. Because these are the things that we got to understand, that our country got to pass this level. That we cannot continue to say that, oh yeah, I'm an active. Look, your life revolves around politics. Either politics at your job, or politics at the national level, or politics at home, because life in its entirety is politics. It's give and take. It's like opportunity cost for $1 to $2. So those choices are political in nature. So hadamani wala nyanta wala fahamu lako either advocacy mole non data political moro oppositional ni mo kota ngala mbele be fintla nga political ki kana si janga ko be funding kel sacrifice la mo tansa ba wala finti drong param menimpo ngo ni nga tilimbali aje mbenga finti nga ko tilimbali alo. And then then the strength of the regime lies on some of their vague wordings. Oh yeah, politician no like adunyi ko nko politician no link civil society should actually come out and of course say no to some of the things that are wrong in society. It's not that what you are saying wrong, not that who can do long. It's who can do what. But then kuja o make a politician la balcom. Mo bela fa nyanda kala politician. Katumbela life but then you political la. Man about price jalra for almost 2,500 political decision will what. Cement the border from 200 or whatever all the way to 600. How much political decision will by monopolizing that sector? Japan can also manola for free. Don't water for the president, but no kabe wa for more mino. You will get millionaire balti mini along kunun wal mahan buke soto. Imagine all that. Kela dimbal tana ka palasi bal dila na masa kunda atolo mo beta findi la kelo ke wala kajo ko tino ngani tonya tama Gambia ka opposition albe we shiring al ka to be political la a dolle be kelo ke la to le na siali o enjoy na man findi mbenga kelo Gambia mbeba to le mbata kilo ngolo kono. But today, my focus is not even about the politics and how politicians think that people are dummies and they are only smart people. Your smartness should be built on how you go out. Usman son konyol ni mo ko tong Senegal wala buka sila suwal kono ka fo funding kele ko alta tendi. E bela ka finde mimbe kala ke ya joko yela banko tilindi to nyaka ngo. Na alnya tilimbali ya jal be finde mole banko tilindi to nyaka. Na nyon nakaro to je. It's high time we tell this truth to the opposition in the Gambia that it cannot be like, the usual game of sitting at home and say, oh yeah, writing little statements. I'm with the young people. I agree with the young people. Moro, you should be part of those discussions and of course those outrages to show your dissatisfaction to the ills that are happening within the regime. You have to come out and then, go foot to foot with the folks, of course, shoulder to ensure that, of course, tinuman into nya sabati mola bankoka. But I don't let us see in the politician ole be koma. Ha politician ole nyanda tale koma. Farma Senegal je kune be protest la makisala na la mol fol mange politician ole. And of course with some civil society actors who believe in one way or another, they believe in something and that is what they are protesting about. But I because Gambia opposition or je fintina atol nya bala adam baro mulla election lual murundi ya jamelo lual to nkomin manke luwa kendo ka ko be million le jola janni be kenola presidential candidate and all that. You saw all of these things. We are actually retrogressing back to where we are coming from, but none of you is saying anything because atol ya menako 1 million ale osoro mo jamalo osoro Gambia fana who can actually do it. But the fact of the matter is that is not the level of financial balance in the Gambia, so it's wrong for the president to do that. But the oppositions will never come out to condemn that, because it all my life from opposition only lafa because nimisa so don't know why haji. So it speaks to one thing: you people all don't really care about this country. It's always about ntolla munafanga munat. Hey, alanga nyone ne tuje ngatonya tamandino almol tenko ni press statement safolla nyamolo ko kule be banko kam min tino nin to nyamanta ala finde alfana yalla balamba tan di kado opposition and of course civil society should always work together to keep government in check and balances. Nakatara siren kala bulo la nyoka ali amena dole finde la woleta kelo kado le na pare dole na pop fanko la kavo ko albe campaign la moro alanga nyone ne tuje. But today we want to just look at Kemo's incident with the police. Alando mira fola la ndaduma sila police ku param ne uniform odung. You are just ordinary human beings. me a police will for adoli olone. I want to nya tamandi would like and dola Kemo bunkido, alko bunkido manafanga. Namanke Joviani Hasidiade, because you people are just wicked. I told you are just like a rebel faction trying to defend this government by all means. But the fact is that along code will finted online, I don't the code will be finting in the videos. But it's high time we talk about them. Police will kabri and funding ke dulu by equality, including journalists will do like, I mean fighting more only working can bondi ye time moment. Now Aliubaka de Tala. Kemo actually left and they were all leaving. And they pushed out all the journalists. So any Alibawe sonko minne odla ko wala rasta mutaka ka dengala ka bute duma ka before ba Alubache kala ka jolo moto kono odla e bude minke wala ala dorne wolo. But that was never captured in camera. Niaje Kemo murunta back to where Ali was. He saw they were beating this young man Jamabal. So abe murunka wolta purka Alu sabana ka fire purngata. Imagine momi be murunka nam purka na fali we nangata drum police wete ba lori wonyato ya jibe drum amang kukela drum ya bunkidola. Atonya ndena na malon ko Gambia no jowi ata tenne man. Haniye police ya tuje fango kom hadama di ya damada manta malon ko Gambian can be this wicked. That you look at this guy, he is not armed, he's not even saying anything to you. Boy, alu kanyu de alba alu min bude kan kana kana wala fa ma ko pura ni weta abunda load la because Oman song kaboje atole be obute kan ko wala rastal sabang dumo la fa labanta mutala ka jolo moto kon wala labanta min follow ta oman finde video to because yo mol min bebe je min ni la fa yo be ken fo nyaato kan dongo mata ko bute nyala mi yalon ko ala don ne yalo bar Kemo lo muru na silo kan dong ali yalla kido ta ko bun kido la ngona ma ira ka Kemo bun kido la wuto fa da fa ila fa mun dola fa mala fa ba malo hala wana bo fanana eko manza kuna mbora jawol ka mol kastirele ni mi agro do barola manza kuna but anyway sometimes it can be funny but dunia la bo nyama don't do monkey Kemo is not one person who is a coward. That is what we got to know. Kado Mumi Murundana, he could have just walked away, even though they deliberately picked Aliu and put him in the vehicle in that very reckless manner out of evil and wickedness. He was just walking back to Aliu Purka Fire Nangata, Yojibe Yaji, Mojibe, Fonyanko Kidola Babul, that's a rubber bullet, yo bunkidola, almost towards his abdomen. Kandamaleka mo bunkidola, Utol Fongo Purung, Namanke Joviati. Imagine a police officer, you have the gut. This man, you marry me, but and defend a man come away from a maybe Imam Berejabul, Imam Fenjabul, it a wajibe the yo bunkidola. Gambia police will atol Joviata bakela man. Ola nankato le alo me police will fa. Because atol wodaji kasi fala from balla. The kind of people that are, security apparatus, most of the police under this regime, Almale and Tankanyam police si fala wala. But going forward, it's not just the police. It's predominantly a typical Gambian society. Police law caring kola. Imagine momi along ko albe nyimin na tenga manke tilongon in tonyati. Albert, I'm using the same phone to have a conversation. So alkanyim police all mi muda tending amanke tilongon in tonyati. So what exactly is the point? That atoli obun kidola wonyama almandanka abun kidola ali wal arrest altate sorong ani wo baramode ali asoro wakal masamba from purkata dress for almost over 3 days and not all finding in court and in between that period anim minifom wokelo kono dolbe sirim bantabe ko matilimbal folama. Out of all that, the dude was sorry like Kemo long a comfort on in a culto. You look at like they're very different. So atolo more so that 360 of a guy, it a man fengo fenje wole nimbol brutalized nyaming. Foka Kemo bun kido la ka simol be baramo nyama. For 3 days ane ka samba fon kata simol dress obe manke now fintini nan ko de ko video da ko caricature, and then you think that is just to poach for viewers and you think you are doing the right thing. Faida ko ka jela wala ite ni wonyim finno ite me mira fo ite buka smile no ite ko ka jela molla la tabo ko ke ude ite ni la ke ude jiko bod mo buka nana yo fo ite openly mol ye nyam wol ke da bon dalla ko dal kamera ko atole baro firinda molti that you have the guts and the audacity ite mam malu fo may man si lay mo bala fa fo soto ko police ole nyim brutalize fo nyim bun kidola Obara mobala, I know obey nana, your sorrow worker, you most and on top of that, wale now kid light a month and get a carabor mono call video nipper put in our video data and then tell them that they rose from heroes to zero. Locate a moja Baltiman. I have never seen a human being as wicked as this 360 boy. But I learn fake life, ninke fonke moli alman ke minti, wala atina, wala kalabula nina. No get a moja balti. Then it'll go out handing police all from it, You are worse than him police all. But at the bell care with a daddy coming from La Gambia, Mobuka Femfuete water, you have the audacity, the guts to come to your platform trying to caricature Kemo in a very negative light. It's a man Malita Masi, a man Balafa from so they take a Muslim of Ita kata video tayo moment bunkidola you brutalize wanyama ye fight selo kono for couple of days wala ulula from new betora den do kete me mira wala ni moyo kete la ila ulula betora so mede bena like video dada pour mol ka jaleta la lo kete mo jaw balde man ndana na mo jaw je mi ita si man ita man bete ya man ita ka jahannama di manya la fonke man do ke billahi wala ala yalo atolo man bete ya. But Gambia no labo wanyama, you see other people sharing that you kweka jele Kemo landesa. Yeah, you kweka jele wala, But wala na ya jame, kamuta jang, min diata ken na jam because intola fa man betea. Moro, ko ku ni aje dron kula kasabu, Gambia no bete mal be jele, bete ata la fwa e ka meno ko malaikol. Bara jaw mal be fari nyimban ko kanne tep. 360 na la postal siala na jelala bollo kono. Well, they rejoice over people's pain. They love to see pain. They love to see people in agony. They rejoice over pain. Because wale tola nyato tadi, wale itol fe, if I caricature, ridicule, and of course, castigate and bully people online, that way I get more viewership. Okay, but viewership ko nyini iko nyini ni kukendo la fanana bare bu ko nyini kamol kajafi kamol tonyendo ma. Karide men foke mo nyina natara kom dula do long natara manke bangure luwal ba damen dol beta mutala dembe ju faralale anun kuta bola je hani keseta tela je bare ka jelo ko amon jarala but the whole point is molmini yalon ko wol de nya bala man sakunda went in there pick this auditor general in a very fraudulent way, in a way that does not actually match with the existing laws of our country. Deliberately Tilimbalia forcefully remove this guy. You don't see anything wrong with that. Ko bondalo officer kono in that manner, you did not see anything wrong with it. The people who spoke up, and of course, they said, what, removing this guy is more or less equal to removing the president from his office. Because that is it. Because it's unconstitutional. Itaman fenso de be min follow Marie. Itama wotilimbalial ni wokurial mimbeji masakunda. Itaman fenso de be min kelela platform or. Fo Kemo bunkidola. Yo alubanyo min bute fo ke jolomo dokono. Itaman balafa wolie. Ye wol sorong wala dimbal ni mobe bo borim na dla bedo e nim baramol be siring o prison o kono ende sando keta jow yatal de ite ya mol nyanda diamul yele ite over wicked talaman billahi wala ala yalo ngongela video jibere ndene Kemo fo ngela video jibere nka jele a funny dale, but at some point I sit back and I think about it. I'm like, okay, with everything that these people went through, because I know him fully well that this guy is sitting at home because he need to know all of those, Baramul Babala was sitting, about Tenkun Nabala site, Yalon, knowing fully well, Dolby Yoba Kumatin Bolo for Yalon, Lafafon Talaman, in Dongula Mullet Hajo, what's the rest of my dating? It a fan and fake Omolong Omujotel, or Emma Mojotelondi. Alayalon kila nila fa Mojotel, a title loke Monyaron, say you for Hanikaseta Telaji, then Ibalon and Molmi Mojotel. O afwe somo fana itamu do chika mi alon kamanke auditor general mi alon is unconstitutional. You will see him there even with the wounds. He will go there. Ndoke albetea. Wajo ya mamu na fa fen albetea. Alkaka ngani ya jawo soto moli minimum kukalla. Betea ma nyo soto jawo ya na fatala. Itela nyim fenke nyino fo jala iro ikata min soto je moli yene jibe ko item mo jaw balti because itela nyimu kafiri jikola fangate ndoke. Doke tamam betea de. Ite man bala fa fon so dondoma ya tol mo si fa lo ngani ko mo fele boya kanate ba kanate la because ite jow yatal This is not fun. It's not a joke, because you can't even turn it into a joke. You are just evil. You are evil, Ndoma. Don't even think that, yalo na dunta jabor. Itala ni man, go ya man tambinye na Ndoma. Imagine if that was done to your big brother. Ko atata ka atandi man sekunda lo kalbe nyimmi na tamanke tilongodi. Iba nyo bude kanga, ama fangot kungo jibe dama, because Kemo had already gone far from that area. But if Aliubamin Torandi can come, Wole Amurin Nanko, Abu Murunka Okoma Yamin, this guy fired at him. I have one kidola, Balobe Barama. O come of a year Mutoka, it is for a couple of days. It a malo will be Alhala from the Odla. You will fail and court, and he was stressing. It a quick old video, I mean, follow for now, Alabanda mean Fenkela Wanyama. A quick jella Walla Kaboko is from hero to zero. Zero because of what Mansakundala Tajinte and Intilimbali. I will celebrate because you have some association with the first lady. Okay, Idandula long, Dunia Hadamano Eke from London. Allah Nyamfal Lombali ala Natambolo Bala. Now after more post like into actually getting confrontational with you is going to be ugly. So do be jabuka na fa fa so al mul horomali mul bunya ali alfa horomali alfa bunya. Me yalon ko nakete ya mul ata diale ndoke kakatili modolla. Am nyumman ke la follow tinak. The pure protest boy do be jangamra o malon fanko protest la fango be caring. But he saw police come yalla do be jeni wole police wol je ko wol be durin re buka hani way bore. Police wol yo muta o pure ngo ba follow ko nda mala be caring jang. Yo fanam video would lie itare ko post, and then you were actually making a mockery of him. And you think that way you actually get viewership because you think you are making people laugh at other people's pain? Iti amra wole tele nyaado tati ndoma. Ita moja ubala fongo man. Ita la fongo jobi ata jaja mela jongula al fongo man doma. Ita you are wicked. And this is what we got to tell you. Ita mam beti ya ita jobi atali. Anu foni ngel nyante hakilo tuleta tole ni protest be keri yeje ye jufara Kosi ita manke mo kendedi. Ita kata wodlale to take videos pur kana jale walla we have a lot of people who are this regime sympathizers and of course, regime apologists who actually pretend that they really care about what is going on. In reality, walkatara jelaka mulla la fango ni ba tilimbali atilinkela. Do maite mo sifaleti. But anyway, I don't want to keep a whole lot of conversation about this dude because you don't really deserve it. Because ita manke journalist, manke fenti, ite mo mala ita mfamoti, I'm not see TikTok kala kuma kalantangol for jale mo jamal so de kal fenge drong, and then you want to use wo kalabante ya kana hoteli molla alal dandula long alkala kalabante ya tilimin la ira kalabante ya sambadula bala sambadula kala ite jow yata bakele ite mo kafiro la fongote ma ite kafir jiko la bela ndoma that you have the guts and the audacity with all the pain these people went through. Ite mom bala fa fon so do wali and ite ma fo le fongo moro sorry about what happened or whatever. Ita mo bala fa fon so de ko kana ko ka video la da pour ka jele wala. Even though the video was funny, and Kemo talked about it earlier. Guy war no ke ye fala ma. Why no ke guy, no ke bulai free ma. No give on Joey at the back. I go get na bola. No give on berea man, But anyway, let's put that one aside. I hope he really understands that it's not good to really try to rejoice over other people's pain or try to use it to ridicule or caricature them. Probably he did not understand the magnitude that other people take serious some of these things. And, I want to give him that benefit of the doubt. And he got to understand that, look, we're not at a stage where we are going to really tolerate this kind of things, with people. Ite nyabe mola banko be sora jaw tilimbali ya nintajidinte ya mbekere Gambia. Ite nyabe obela. Ite mamfemfo no woto, imede no wakam fai kana mini alonko wolka vuko nyumu tilimbali ya ibe buna kidole ibe kuwa kele. Ite ko imambala fa wale kwe kana wale ridikuli kwe kana jela wale le. Okay. Nolsa kire nyala jela mold. Ya medete ye fangolo. Tola nyumfalombali ya na anyanta dankela ala silam. So, let's move on to the next thing. It's been a while we've not said anything about the cops because this case is coming up in October 6th. Evidently we know. Kukilimbeje den ko ninga modo ka fanya boy yo bul tontu hawma bahum la hawma yalon bahum na dia nga block le fana mera ninga lon ko I want a lot of things to get to the NPP and block him so he can continue to rant, and then he goes to their page and copy and paste under my wall because akamene safe oni bahum kamin fana akamene safe buka tali so ikalon ko man katela safe akaboni and lalo kana paste mo comment solto bara min fana ko mara wala nyindiko nyimma sakunda Itoli alone me police or fakado nying who killed the cops buka mo dimi na manke NPP ngol mona no katol dim ngone nga modol jolbe ku folanta mal kata wala pe han wol fon la ku wol man diale akata wala pe dabo ku mo sifa be folanta mal loki lin kadol mon alman te long alman ku lon tamal na man dala ku jawjo whatever. So all that you could all this dude dunda jabara jana kadu ka fo jang ku me bi atal na me ntamalo me police or fa wala dan kal nyininga kata tol fana malong nali alon nungita sankare command la ka superior to court. Ita fenka fanan command la, the National Security Advisor to subpoena to court. And alla ex-DIG so purka command to subpoena them to court. Ke forolondi. Alla mo imanta forolondi. Alla masa kunda do hula la menu finita ko, seno go jane police or fire. Alla forolondi. Ko nyawe do hula, become area council. Al nang UDP la politiko. Alla lafta alla tapale almin bela. Alla tapale ama work. Abadamin kai. Moralta police will fall ale Cairo so Gambia. Wala na you see all the things that are happening in the Gambia. Ko kuna kara jabang. Luwolo ngatolo betulal singol la kandrong. You will be in the streets, you will burn fuel. At the end of the day, na full albola tinyala for all this unnecessary whatever. Albo tiaga so far. Atolo buka mulla kuo fongo jibe to talk to people in a nice way. You are always throwing tear gas on people as if you are dealing with animals. Mansa kundala jowe ata dunian mansa kundala bere. Alla corruption wala natamida. Because imagine, Barrow, you're giving all those monies to your nephew and then you go to those banks. It's not just that one. Because from 2017, if you know most of new prominent people calling themselves prominent or they have money, if you know the amount of loans they took from this bank and they later call it bad debt. They call it bad debt and then imanta hakodo jola kotenke, ye fangol fanka mayani bankola na fulola. Nyini nyomo jawole fangol na maja dunia dulato man. And then sometimes you see some young people. I saw a post. Someone was trying to say, mineka foko batambele nyol tenin dunta jabo jana moro. Ako ita lafa na finta la na fikiabula. Al nyada tala ya foko batambele nyol commission londi wo commission o mi commission o mi londi wala kan niso wafu kema konondola mi yalon ko ani subukilo fulama tambida kema konondola ko hani wo man tilimbali yake wala. Ama ita mariba kende ari. Mol mimbe do ko le je fatale mi tay dol ta nyaadi ke kumani na la officer ani ka ta fa do ko e ka wodi mol la Gambia wala nyam na manga tilimbali yani tajinde ya anan dol be wol ko mini alon ko e ka institutional dol investigated tol fon ila stake ball be tol yo beji tilimbali ya be tamani wodla. How can you even tell me that Alpha Capital, you write to Alpha Capital as in an organization, Alpha Capital, but of course you said you give them the job as in Alpha Barry as an individual to run away from other things, cover up long. They know very well that, it's more or less consciously trying to deviate guilt. Moro Gambia no mtapale balati so ko nyima sakunda do kulal dol be kon. Tilim ni ngol be jelet bara kurungol la siata. Bara manda masakunda do kulal fongolat because always they have their own operatives within and around. Many amira ko idol bawe ka angale kan do man din dun ñoko ne sinana e mol fa kuma balla jam. Moro mol nyama masilang. Moli alona mimbe kere nyimbanko kalbe nyimbanko tamman la silola. Wala mole wuli ya tamandi famo isilola. Because this kakistocratic regime has nothing to offer to the Gambians. Mole mi ya longo ya dondoro ke fone sa ebuka dondoro ke no kamune ke mola state enterprises soli ko le muta ke mortgage okay deep bantala company la ka fo ko na le nyindo ta fo sanje mo. Imagine you give out the bridge for the next 20 years. Gambia along ko alla bridge o kodo nyanda misoro le nyimma sakunda be odomo kana for the next 20 years. So the rest of it would be like company le kodo ta because ni wala ko di baldi le mola bridge ol dila. Dry port ye mola podo di min le be dry port lola fana wol fana itaraje sanje tan saba. Or for the next 30 years, you must akunda kodo inyanda ngai etole domoro ke la foi sanye tan sabadam tambindi. Corruption on mi yela na tambol fam wote. Beje molbe mol fala kuma ken san wala janne min tata wo sawunda je drum butum o fanan fe ka intel dunya we diaren. Gambia fam da mala mo sifal do beje fam modol fam e ko fam ja fam wala ko fam ke jakal. Kuno ne mi sida foi ko nyima sakunda mantile be nyimmin ne man fanketente so mo weta je drum ngola na bodol be no ko boy nindo ngol bentele ka fanya yamara nim baro do ko de baro la do ko ndabo kalamanat. Alo ni mam momin le ka foi le hey. Ga baro la do ko kalamanat. Fo baro jo salary min wala alka al dukaran kanan ka nyodi yamande dukan alma mol tankun. Hay na manke sunyaro ni ku ko tangol de munay woddo ko kalamanat. Moro mobe manke motilim balti de mobe manke kom fankoti de. People who rush into politics without having financial independence will become a maintain because Gambia system of benyaming. For you to join politics, you need if you are not making money while sleeping, don't get into politics. If you are a salary-dependent person, why would you get into partisan politics? Because the African politics is in such a way that ita ko do soro da min be be bayla do ko la follow. Sa ira ko di soro la ko sa ira politiko la nyade. Kar politiko ko do ko taman. You don't have functional businesses outside of that country. Even if you have functional businesses inside that country, they will cripple your businesses. And if they cripple your businesses, that might be your primary financial source, and they cripple your politics. So they cripple you in every way possible, and then they inject hunger and starvation on you to a point that you cannot maintain it. You go and join them. Because they are from government projects. But when they become, members of the opposition, don't be a maintain no. Opposition to go and join government. They did not join government out of their own volition, but because, abenami lale kanomu. Ngajele dolo torande jay ko alta nyinni kelo no bar kunu bi wolta da jointe kay ko you can do everything. That is how governance is in our country. Ndolo ko wala muto nyati. Ndolo ko wala nyinti ko anybody and everybody should have a liberty to join anywhere. That is freedom of association. Freedom of association that is restricted and controlled by the existing regime. That is just it. There is no freedom of association in the Gambia. So ñin lom kuti mi yalon control be ñanta wala jibela ñama sakunda mon kata kula keñun la so ko min ka jifendi to ko ka jele mol la tol be jele la jumal la kado ita min ka jele Kemo la asaka Kemo kato min ke Gambia ita bi dala foye fo ita mo ke kade ita mo wuli fon ka ko mban sakunda ko la ñim mam bete fo ita ko ka jele mol la e mol min bunki do fon la ita mom bala fa soto wol ita ko ka si ko ka video la da you take your time, take almost hours to put up a video together just to laugh at those people. It your time mo min be spend hani mira kendo man nana ita ndama la faro ka salla fon ban kado ni mo hada mo din sobe fon ala nyasi na mo be la fon ni bo fon ba he bari amana man ta na nyim mari ka sida ban kanta ka nyim min kete mo na nyim ku kendo la fon de ban mo na fon ta man nyam bala fa la nyim mari fon ba kado yeta ko min fon ke nyinna wol min yalon ko ani hada mo wala nyanto la fon man ta barala jow ya doron na kala bula nyinna na la kafiriya. But so we sympathize with Kemo Aliubani mo kana Aliubawa ga wala fon torate bul ka yole lipa la ko mala mo nongola ko do bi jala ko kambala fa ba police wala ka amerika tu xamel ngata ko kamala man e ka amna momi yalon ko ni aje ka amna ko duwo nyaay suboje ngoy hakilo do ko e ka ne domo je ka to nyimol ka ma nyami ka amna ko duwo konko no nyaay suboje man. These are the things that we got to actually look at in our country. Police only for 2 years and plus now. Nobody knows what the truth is. Gambia is a very funny society. Gambia, a country that says that they are basically Christians and Muslims. You've seen innocent two Gambians, Akweta Mo Bela. These are innocent people that this government had lied against over and over again for 2 good years. They put them in prison. A lactating mother, to banta in prison. And kuwa kenya masakundara. Masakunda murunte fanial for minta mida faniata lulula. So he works in Brikameda. He's a member of the UDP. Part of the money was recovered. We track him. Yara for be fania. But dina dun kele be kere luolung every other Friday there be la someone so kele la jame wonto bare nyabe Gambia dingo la mi ya lon ko tilimbaliani nakaro bakang but it mota fem fola je nobody will open a lid. These are people of the book who believe in their faith and believe in justice, but they will never talk about the injustice that is happening to those families. And we nyaba moro altino woni to nyata mani molla banko kan ala nga to nya ko ni nyola ngam fonyo nyone la. It's not a good thing. Amanke kukendeti. Amanke kukendeti. Amanke kukendeti. Bareka ajel han wala fon kono dole bije wala ke imam wala ni masa kunda isa jiyo di dolla wala e dolla kaspa e dara kaspa wala jo wala jamen kaspa wala fenke dron. They don't say nothing. Are you doing everything based on interest, or you are there to speak the truth where it is necessary to speak? You are there to oppose injustice, to tell people, hey, alakalia telling. Ale tonya tamandal da malutema. Nimimbe la renyi molo kama mange tinu tamange tonya. Tatolo nyamoji. Why are we so selective as a people? Or you think we talk about this, homie, because we're from the same hood and we grow up here, but we're not related in any way. Just like you, I could shut up and mind my business. Does not affect my penny. Maybe this way it affects my penny because I got to put my penny in it. And I got to put my time in it. But that pleases me. Because that's my homie. In one way or another, not very close, but I know, like, you know what, that's your dude. And so what? Bare banko mume mo bebe deren ko nyamantra tilimbali ala mimbe nyindimbal kam. Moro nakete balla bita la fila banko be dede. Nakete la younger brother lo your big brother ita la fila banko be dede. Oda Gambia nibe ko jibe la suma ifangola. That Amish children would sometimes, you talk to them on the phone, you feel like, Karanyo be beautiful, Karanyo ali wanted dimbal base kata, you know. If they go to school, like their parents got to come pick their results or whatever, they don't even see no, you know, ibamale. I don't know, so can I make anything. I'm off of Moma, market mola, you know, all of a sudden government in its manipulations and of course criminal doings deliberately get these people and put them in jail for over 2 years. Banko bebe derin tech kokuta kering. We normalize injustice in our country simply because it is not happening to us, it's not happening to our families. We all turn into self-protectionist. But abe koleala la puriya modolu diamundi wada kado wolbe do kola Masakunda lan Masakunda is the major employer ni e bay wodo anu kodi buka sodo Gambia ni e bay wodo mono more bera dimba balundi la nyadil amanka ko mol fana mala fi diamu la bare molbe diamu no la nyadil the system is built in that way ni diamu de e bay do kola dum ne ne dimba la fana you know tula toro kon. So that is why countries like the Gambia governments will prefer that we continue in poverty so that nobody will have a voice. Because before you have a voice, more economic faring, wala you know, yamuta dala soro dami yalong kamanka Masakunda se by no bina diate suma e by. Eman kuno je. Koya auditor general mutanyame ka by for safe intent, even though the constitution said you cannot actually fire him. And you still see people coming out to defend and justify that. But Reambe Gambia anyanta danala man. And that should be a collective responsibility. We cannot continue to pretend and continue to shy away from it. But what I realized within these past 2 years is that it hit some homes and then they realized that, hey, what's going on? Until there is justice, equal right and justice for everybody, we will continue to see these hurdles and struggles that our people will continue to go through because we don't collectively come out to condemn them. And we feel like so long it's not my family affected, I better not say a word. That's not how you run a country. Go left to some of, like, let's say before even 2-3 years, but you got to a point you realize that, hello, people that keep telling you, look, focus on your career, don't talk about it. What is your career actually? Tell me what your career is. If you are a teacher who runs the ministry of, teachers or whatever they call it, schools and school systems, it's the government. If you are a banker, the commercial banks or whatever government related or whatever, they all have a connection to the government. The government sets the principles. The government sets the rules. The food prices or the food you eat at home, the prices are determined by government. The roads you drive on, the fuel prices, every other thing, data price, internet wadabe koleare nyame, you man like decide. Amanka Masakunda. Ikamila bungolo boy, Jaban indula kotongol, all these land related conflicts is due to what? Poor governance. So moro nima Masakunda tilinu masure kula fonta beteanola. So don't tell people that, oh, mind your business, don't do this, don't get into politics. Politics is what runs everything that we do. So if you have in mind to call people to tell them, oh, you mind your business, focus on your career, bro, ita man atol man tol dun this school. Ite move funding mendungo itatela school until they're done with whatever they pick up their careers and they're already advancing it. You think you can tell them, you can advise them to stop talking about government, because some of them, they do that not because they really care about you, but because they want to protect this disgusting regime. And they pretentiously come to you to say, focus on what? What should we focus on? You know what we are doing? Now you got to tell us what we should focus on. As if you know where we started from. Anyway, we wouldn't stay that much long. But the whole point is that we looked at the video, it's a very funny one, and we laughed over it. But I meant and Gambia Mume should be guilty when Hussein Obojang and the sister is leaving prison when this case ends. Albe say they take. Kadu is like a guilty nation as it stands. who is watching an injustice meted on a family, very innocent family, and every person in that country remains silent, as if they don't see anything, as if everything is normal. An injustice against one person is an injustice against all of us. But even to step up and say, just to ask the question, who killed the cop? Some people, boy, that can mean something. Hey, why yen? Nana momil long kabirong kunum bin de samboto simply because consider the jumal adam barola masakunda ala enjoy la yonfa. Al tonya tamandi ale tilimbali ane sunya robula molla masakunda anin kal kad molla bansakunda do ko di al badi molla min yalon ko imam hani bukeno. Just to enrich all of these your family members. Ngo lumbenala ba be busila al bela bul anala korda la kamino lod la kana anal ngo anala keta bankol mbe talal karalta molla ko do sunya la kara bungol lo wol to ido o gana ngala bungol be jane wongi be boy masakunda jaw bala benla majin momi yalon ko ino buka paso soro no e fongoli oltai e place baldi la molla masakunda e nga e o almamo ko nyaade albe bunjangol lo latol tubab karannol albuka fendi al arabu karannol banga motu almamo fangara ga akay masakunda la support ko nyum masakunda kendo la dam borom mo kendo iko kaspo ada ko le ada amam ko le afolo you know ibuka moto i dolda malla ka moto borandi maybe nyanda moto nin kaspo songo dila imamo nyinna le no esaje ino I complain o tuje ino or maybe that's just a civilized way of telling government I need a car and cars power moro alto nyata mani molla bankoka ne to nyata mani dron mobe kalo no ko to nyala be jam isa lon ko la katole be kusile la but you know do be je ka moli ka ko mura la kata ngo gamme ba kata la fay kata kudul la ka hani buge ta jela fentem fo you know banko bay sora jaw mindo fentem fo masakunda jaw min benna je so mbe nyanda denna wala ka falin an wo falendo ta keno la ka ko kalbe fonnin kella bulala wol kata ino ke bunki do la de mbele be intela nyola ka je ko nin ku kurun keta min ni silo ni sartul monta nin banko la luwal manda mbe nga fo nyola ko nyinnin luwa ni sartul monta ala dole dara siri ko to politicien no dal ba lafta nan ngol dun nal ba fon sere la kar la fisara mol dan fonnin kelo wala to lan nam mol wala be dal de fon fal you know nal pare da you know atol politicien no dal ngo politician no ni mo bien politician no how political decisions affect everybody. The removal of the Auditor General is a political whatever, and it has to the Constitution. Everything in it is actually developed, or probably by experts, and of course it is implemented in terms of it whatever. The legislature work on it, and the legislature actually works in the political house, and everything about it is political, and we have people's representatives, so everybody is a politician. So moka na udundi kunkono ko go and focus on something when you in the mama la bunkono insabo nin kura mala ta jalon ko political decision lo na fara je fana wo ku kilo malo anda to min kasi ka buko adam baro la masa kunda en to la silo da hey ajuma la silo da arda nin ko jumal ala ko dola kata ko dol don tan nangino ka don tan fon to yala fon lo ko dol min jola way silo e ke o da to ka ko karle silo ke jam obi je fon ibukala mo mentality si fala bando la society fon ala fa mari janna ke president da silo keje isa alo woto ka tele silo keje ngo mansa kunda la silo mo tantengati anonym mansa kunda silo keje those are very basic things mi yalon ko wala nyanta kela anda ibuka ke ni la na fulo na manke ka min fon sunya o fon kono ka dundi la jibol kono mansa kunda kurmo nin kuriya nin tapale nin sunyaro anana masoro. And then you see the likes of Batambedu coming, nothing bad will be seen here. But these are the same people that will actually go to communities. Musola garden ol fon kono, fen kol min bije bohol pompol. Ka bohol pompol wutuje. Kana waf. When na masakunda jaw jami adam barola masakunda siman. And I have not seen a terrible chief, minister of justice that ever existed beyond Batambedu. But in because I'm going to set an example as if Gambia was your biological inheritance. Just for people to realize that you are one of the biggest criminals that Barrow has ever appointed. That under your watch, people can actually be selling, cars for $5,000. That under your watch, people can be selling AIMS TVs for $500. That under your watch, you can go and sell Gambia's lands. The government does not need those lands. Is this the government that will end Gambia? Gambia will not have another government for the next 100 years when you know that government does not even have land. Land belongs to communities customarily. So government government needed to maintain them for projects today, tomorrow, and of course for future. But alla tilimbalia, nalla tapalia, nalla sunyaro, lalio bankol, bemut alia, altarale court order so and unfreeze that alio be wafal da malte maje. Alkavogo government needed money. Government needed money, so government fanka tu mulung kake bank waflati mulla bankoka. How can you even be selling state properties that belongs to every Gambian? Alkada alfangola munafa wala. Onyon jaw yala be kering. Kata muso la gari no ka bowol pompol bonni jarol ka foko wala mo kendoti. Kata fama soli ya fonka tractor table kana wafu ku alfangol ya. Alman malalman silal kala kata fem ko la di wala ino falol ni suol. Wanyo masa kundali. Masa kundati limbalo fa wonna na majama. E tractor ta mo bularo kata all donate falol la. Imagine, just look at the logical sense around that. How dumb and stupid would that be? But it's not even dumb and stupid, it's wickedness. And that is the government we want to continue to maintain in the Gambia. That they could actually give all this medical license to all this Samba Boyo Hamilton and they go and bring us Chinese syrup or whatever, man, for Indian syrup, that killed over 70 children in the Gambia. This government killed over 70 children out of negligence and malgovernance, which was based on corrupt practices. Hani for B, wala la mahani justice fon so no asake ele dinno wal dole be je fon bala kan dinne wala madro etata yo boro dila wali yo min e fata ntol ko tilingo nin to nyata nim banku dol long is going to outrage the entire country. But that will be considered a national disaster. But the minister is just very normal like any other child death in the country. But tonya ndama masakunda jawo de minyalon ko imam bala faso do Gambia dingol yemin tambita nyum masakunda kadu dindinta wora wala e fatu le finti nang to give a statement to actually downplay that and make it look like it's very normal. Tubabo le la kodo di alla 10 million malo nyaade ali o kodo be mutali abe batara dum fo kali ajo alga permanent secretary dum da kato le wol sorona because you were compelled to do it because you never wanted to do it. Al kodo mi yalon kanyanda punna jaral lo bunda fo ngala to yo fo be mutali o be do matol mom bala faso do Gambia dingol fo atol nyom mo jawol nena maje dunia dula al ko molte o fola that you want to remove the Auditor General by playing manipulative simply because you want to remove him, make him a minister. The next day fire him. Get your this little man me along kabotan tola nyum konyo kanya. Ali okeje onyo mo kurna shorta me along kai gawfola kodo be sunyano nja bota na America ale murun ali okay fenko internal auditor ni sankare nara jang ita si santo jana ya bekata ami odi land conference this UN assembly from abuka asingoloje. Wale na muru na ye kodibal dile jo kodibal. But even let's focus on Sankare. Sankare is on studies, but Sankare still maintains the position of government spokesperson, as if nobody can replace Sankare in his absence. He is going to be on studies for a PhD. Inene omo Gambia mundol, inene omo dunia da mundol. That you left your position to go and work and then to go and study, and you left with the position, and you will come back with the position. Como kodanta tarla je na mankete di mansa kundala palaso Sankare na wulitala na tata India kata karangola na be wulna nanjela na muruna wake keno adam barola mansa kunda dronot. Even if you work in government as a permanent secretary, anytime you are leaving for studies, you go on study leave and somebody replaces you in the meantime. But hani for B ndolma moyko there is an interim government spokesperson or somebody is in that capacity. Sankare still maintains that position, so he flies with the position to India and he will come back with the position. Adam barola mansa kundala kuriada mansa kundala bete dunia kon. That no other Gambian can actually fit that position. That Sankare left with that position, and of course he will come back with the position, right? Like he came the other time, he asked Supino to court that Peter Gomez of call that yeah, he's still the government spokesperson. Of course he is. And then nobody dares to say anything because everybody's got to accept that that's the reality. And not even the National Assembly could ask, look, what the hell is going on with this? Imagine Gambia, a governance structure. You said, oh yeah, Jame had too many ministers. You will come and reduce ministries, but you have increased more than 5 ministries. Atole mune tala, na mangeka ministry la famini mohan na fala fonso moy. Ale ministry min la fa mona fa mona civil service, whatever. What nonsense of a ministry is that? How can you have PMO and then you have a civil service ministry? Duplicate of you don't even know what you are doing because you have no understanding of governance. That tells a lot about how a kakistocratic regime is. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I think my family was sleeping, so they're waking up, and I'm not sure I'm gonna be on the phone while yeah, women control the system in this house, so it is what it is. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't know for what but we will continue having these conversations. and making sure that we account the government that we have in place. Bawo alta lale police or falkale and tola mul mutakon. Ntol nabe political kela le fadan blood. Ha manda sila la mula wala mbetonya la fola tonya sabatin. Ha alla masakunda masa manke masakunda tilente masakunda kurumbala mati. Ha son suluto lebe Gambia marakang anu wodum bela nyanda wulla ngokele ngaje ko tilimo ni tonya tamon na banko kam purum bela nafa. Amanke kunkelina mol na nafati. So bahum nyol ni mo ko ngol nalen yen ni wol benyo but alka na wol worry wala because I want them to get the information to the right. Sometimes it's good that people really get that information to their parties so that their people understand and we know they listen and they watch and they know what's going on. Ngo sondo mo la ka balandro arondi ara mo ka balandro mara sondo mo na ka balanto nyala. When you sit and you self evaluate and you know what the truth is, your inner self will never lie to you. Nibe tonya ka ikalon ni. Anu nibe fanya fana na ikalon ni. Ni halu no ko mantra silo kan drong, your inner self will always tell you the truth. Go. Ada madungo jato abuka fania for you. Yourself don't deceive you. Except you want to deceive yourself. But ko ifang wale ifang ite nene. No. Ite be ifang nene la bara ifang ite nene la because ani kuriya ke banda ni dundra non kono. Kasi daga moro bara ngani mengede ndam. Ani mo malong your conscience already showed you the guilt. Moro ngani mengede mbile, yo guy mangu kendege. Yeah, you know that. Nobody got to tell you. Your inner self tells you. Alonso, suraka jo ko ina man. Suraka jo ko ina. Yale la cool. Yamanda ite la ite the problem was here back man. But anyway, thank you very much and do have a wonderful evening. Boy, ebuna julo la nyomo. Yale la cool. Ima jere buga hanya ra protest fangola. Ite ni la protest ite doko. Ibere baila doko wala fe. Mafanya asake mo NPP lady alme tankala NPP ko wala But anyway bado ngal kontom man kay alma sudo dialo for the kote